Hey everyone, I'm Jayel Draco, and this is my illustrious partner, Lynsey G.
Hi.
She is invisible, as
I'm
you can
here.
see, but she's definitely here.
I'm so here.
Uh, how's everybody doing? You got ads.
Hi, folks.
Dago night.
Wow, look at this chat already. Holy moly.
No, we've got some
People have
awesome people in here.
questions.
We've got Arcadia Comics, who has a Kickstarter in pre-launch right now, which
Okay,
we'll be
guys.
sending out.
Alright.
Yeah, we'll be pinging our newsletter followers and our campaign followers with that. Holy butts, Mass Effects is here and just
Holy
resubscribed with Prime for 21 months. That's 3 months away from 2 years subscribed.
Thanks.
We have Silent Speaker here who pointed out that I got the date wrong on the announcement for tonight. I should have just said tonight. But instead I wrote February 23rd. We have Jasenia Official. Hey,
Hi.
what's happening? We've got Henry Virtuoso. Howdy, Henry.
Hello.
Shadowwind Art. Hello, Shadowwind. How are you? Sora Morbid. Hi, Sora.
Oh, hi, Sora.
And Jagu Knight, who missed me absorbing the Druid Stone and becoming the god of slime and jello molds. No, it's slime, mold, and jello. Time traveling, always. So, did you know, if you watch ads, it actually supports the streamer, because we get a share of that ad revenue, so it's not the worst thing in the world if you see an ad.
What are the ads for? Anything good?
Usually terrible crap that nobody wants, and it makes you hate the company.
Like what?
I don't know, like stupid sports drinks that are made out of, like, slug juice.
I don't see ads there.
Well,
When I'm watching.
oh, that's because I think if you're subbed, you usually don't get ads.
Oh, okay.
But
Or Febreze. They're like, you seem like someone who needs Febreze. Like,
yes,
oh, thanks.
the
Thanks,
ad
thanks.
was poor and made me hate whatever it is. What was it? Mass Effects is like, I shall not say. You muted it for the weed killer ad? Ugh, fucking weed killer ads. Some pill that I won't buy. Twitch is trying to tell you stink. Shit.
Oh, no.
So how's everybody doing? We are running a little behind. Hi Yuki, hi Noodle. Eating food before I go to bed. But hello. Thank you for stopping in, even though you're exhausted and it's way past your bedtime.
Oh, thanks.
It's the principle of the thing. No ads for me. Yeah, I mean, if you're subscribed, you shouldn't have to watch ads, right? And you are subscribed, so what the hell? Maybe I'll check into my settings. Maybe there's something I need to check for that. Or did the ads stop after you subbed? The best ramen spot in town? Which one is that? Michi or that other ramen place?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
There are a few places around town that do. There's Hokkaido and
Hokkaido. That's what I was
Michi.
thinking.
Those are the two like ramen places, and then there are a few other restaurants where you can get ramen. So.
Hokkaido. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, they're new. Yeah.
Yeah. New Hokkaido.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with
Have you
New
eaten it
Hokkaido.
yet? Is it good? We went there once, but that was a while ago. And they only had one vegetarian option, so I don't have much experience.
Oh, by the way, folks, we're gonna be putting this up on the UbiTubies, so there's that.
The Ubes tubes. Yes, so we're here for a Q&A. We're going to A all of your Qs. That'd be so fun.
Your cues will never have been so aid.
But we're gonna just chill for a little bit and let people trickle on in.
Tubes hyped. So yeah, I guess we'll give folks a minute, we've got all of our responses from the survey collated in one place, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be going through those questions and answering them. But if that sparks questions in chat, you can always ask follow-up questions or related questions or unrelated questions if something occurs to you. I think we'll start by watching the video to give people a good sense of what we're doing in case there's anyone here who's like, what the fuck is a Tracy Queen? So what I'm going to do is mute my music. And then I'm going to mute my mic. And this time, I'm going to remember to turn the mic back on because Lynsey's going to remind me.
Hi, I'm Lynsey G. I am the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Oneshi Press, and I am the writer of Tracy Queen, the ultra-spicy comic book series.
Hi, I'm Jayel Draco. I am the co-founder and lead designer of Oneshi Press, and I'm the illustrator of Tracy Queen.
Tracy Queen follows a woman who leaves behind a life of violence to pursue pleasure.
She escapes her grandfather's crime syndicate and takes the world of adult film by storm.
But success comes at a cost. Everyone wants a piece, and her violent past won't let her go.
Even as she redefines empowerment and independence.
The forces of prudery and repression try to take her down.
Tracy Queen, volumes 1 through 3 are already finished and printed. Now it's time to bring volume 4, This Is Huge, to life.
This time, we're also funding a spicy zine featuring Tracy Queen and her diverse zine partners, all created by erotic art virtuoso Spicy Dragon.
All we need is your support to print and ship these books to you.
We're bringing Tracy Queen volumes 1 through 4 to Kickstarter, a platform that helps connect creators with readers and make a living doing what they love.
We love Kickstarter, and with your support, this will be our 22nd successfully funded campaign.
Pledge now to get Tracy Queen 1 to 4 in print or digital. Your choice of mild or spicy variant covers
Oneshi
and
Press's
the
fearless
spicy zine.
co-founder Lynsey
Plus,
Lag descends
thank you in
upon
the book
us.
and on our website. The Tracy Queen theme song, the audio commentary, a miniature figurine,
And as always, we'll have a tree planted in your honor as part of our ongoing partnership with the global reforestation heroes at One Tree Planted.
With your support, we're bringing Tracy Queen 1 through 4 and the Spicy Zine to life.
Thank you for backing this project. We couldn't do this without you.
So check out the rewards and pick the tier that's right for you.
And don't forget to grab some sweet add-ons while you're at it.
Thank you.
I am the editor and co-founder of things that I'm not off to a good start.
I'm the co-founder, lead designer, and illustrator of
But success comes at a cost. It sure does.
one more time. This is huge.
Can't put that on Kickstarter.
Tracy Queen volumes 1 through 3 are already printed.
That is a weird phrase, isn't it?
Check out the rewards and pick the tier.
I was like, wow, this one's good.
You gotta try the champagne.
Oh, there's
Red Baron! I hate this guy!
Now we see the violence inherent in the system.
Is that alright? Should I try it one more time?
Thank you.
Woo! Okay, look at that. First thing I did was unmute the mic.
Good job.
I'm so good at jobs.
Help, help. I'm being repressed.
So, what'd you guys think of that? You ready for this Q&A? Aw, we're proud of you being proud of us. How are we gonna do this Q&A, Lynsey? Do you want to ask read the first question, and then we'll just both
Sure.
riff on it? And
Yeah,
we'll try to keep our answers short at first, and then we can always expand upon them.
All right, here we go.
Goya flan.
The first question is, Will there ever be a safe for work version of Tracy?
Ha! I think so. There have been at least one spin-off, which was an 8-pager in one of our anthologies that was safe for work,
Mm.
and there will probably be a few more of those. And I think that spin-off is actually gonna be in Tracy Queen Volume 4, right?
Uh, eh,
Maybe that's a stretch goal. We haven't announced those yet because we haven't gotten funded yet. Um, so yeah, I guess that answers that question. Next
um,
question.
well, a safe for work version of. I mean,
Like
does that mean like versions of the books that are safe for work?
like super censored
I think that would be really hard to do because Tracy's story, it's
inherently
about
is
her
a sex positive
sexuality.
story. Yeah.
Um, yeah, that doesn't really seem doable because it's important to me that in this story the sexual situations are part of the story. Um, because lots of reasons that feels really important to me.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is about exploring those as narrative components and not just a bell or whistle or popcorn. You know, like when you're watching an action movie and there's a sex scene for no reason and it's like clearly just put in there to like get the viewers goad. Like in Tracy's story, the sex scenes are part of the narrative and they're
Right.
inseparable, right? So
Yeah, it
it wouldn't really
continues the
work.
story. It's part of the
But
story.
like I said, there's always room for spin-offs that have nothing to do with her
Yeah.
sexcapades.
The sexcapades
Sexcapades, yeah.
on the top of my sexalade. I'm so old.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Lynsey G's.
Next question.
Next question.
So when Tracy uses the sex cells of her partners to create an army, the same as breeding laws tried to make people reproduce to create their armies, was that irony intentional? Um,
Good question. That's a really good one.
I'm trying to think. So when I decided to write Tracy Queen, it was because I wanted to make a fun junk science like sci-fi take on Frankenstein or Rocky Horror, but from like a sexual evolution standpoint because I was reading a lot of theory about breeding behavior in animals and why different species have adopted different strategies and um, especially for mammals, a predominant theory is that you know females choose their mates based on their likelihood to pass on genetics, and that females tend to be more picky because it costs them more. It's harder for them to reproduce. They have to put a lot more of themselves into it. Um, and so therefore the sort of like the winningest females um, have employed strategies to make their genetics as strong as possible by pairing up with the strongest male specimen available. Um, and in some species, the idea is that the more promiscuous a female is, the higher the likelihood that they will have strong offspring that will then continue their genetic line.
You're talking about like sex cell competition.
Yes. So this is based on the sperm wars theory, which is that you get a whole bunch of sperm in there and then they all duke it out. This has pretty much been proven to be not the way it really works. I could go into that at length, but I started thinking like, so if we take the theory that more promiscuous females are more successful genetically, what if we like sped up that
Shadowcast.
process? And what if we just made someone who was like really promiscuous but didn't have to wait for the whole like pregnancy and delivery thing to like spread her genetic legacy? And that's not what actually Tracy Queen
I
ends up
think
doing. It's she's not spreading her genetic legacy, but she is speeding up that process of turning her sexual exploits into a legacy that she will pass on.
So we've veered from the question quite a bit.
No. This I'm coming back to it.
Okay.
So that's all to say. That is why I had her do this. It didn't have to do with breeding laws when I wrote
Specifically,
it.
however, even like Frankenstein, Rocky Horror, those things do explore the concept of creating life from a position of control and power, which does tie into breeding laws. So even though you might not have been like consciously aware of that, they are still related. But they're related through a more zeitgeist sort of way.
Right. Well, and one of the things
But
that you see in, especially in Frankenstein, and in a lot of breeding laws, is that they're trying to do away with or negate the female influence, and most of our breeding laws, hereditary laws, are all
very
patriarchal,
anti-feminist.
Yeah. So in this situation, Tracy's kind of doing the opposite of what has been done to women by sort of like trying to take them
doing it
out
to
of...
men in a way.
Uh-huh.
Right. Another interesting thing about that is I think what we're talking about with like primatology in species that are more promiscuous, the other reason why that does actually lead to success is because no one knows who the dad is. Everyone's taking care of the babies. Yeah. In species where it's like, I'm the dad. No, I'm the dad. Oh, we're gonna fight and we're gonna kill the babies. Like that actually creates a a hostile culture towards the babies. Where in one way, strongest survive, but in another way, it's like if that species were to encounter external stimuli that were harmful to its survival rate, it might not do as well. Like we see that in like elephant seals, right?
Freaking elephant seals. I hate
elephant seals.
No,
you do. That's why I said that. But in like bonobos are like, I don't know if you're my baby. You might be. You want a frickin' banana? You know, like.
Humari, you are the father. Mass Effects. Fuck seals. Team penguins. Uh-oh, I hope Abstractor doesn't come in here.
Uh-oh. All right, that was a good question, Shadowcast. That's a very good
question. And the answer is no.
Not directly.
It wasn't directly about breeding laws, but so much of Tracy Queen is about sort of turning all of the existing ideas about sociality and sex on their heads. So also yes.
All right, should we move along to the next question?
Next question. How did Nikola find out about / stumble across grandfather's warehouse to break into it in the first volume? Good question. So Nikola had recently escaped from a scientific institution where they were experimenting on animals, where he had gotten super smart and developed the ability to talk and read and engineer electronics, as one does. And he basically was out on his own and not doing so hot and coming down from the amphetamines that were being pumped into his system while he was in the lab. And there was a rainstorm, and he was just looking for shelter and managed to squeeze his way in through, probably the sewer or something like that.
Or even just like a vent. I mean, he's a raccoon. And a particularly clever one. Yeah. So even if a vent was screwed shut, he could unscrew it.
I never really thought about it. He can probably pick locks, too.
Honestly. Yeah. So no, he did. He picked the lock of his cage to escape from him.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, duh. So, yeah, I don't know exactly how he got in, but he got in there just, like, looking for a way out of the rain and was like, oh, this place is full of cocaine. And that was that.
Yeah, and since he was already addicted to
uppers,
yeah. That was like the closest thing he could find, and so he's basically, swapped addictions, which is something that's really common amongst people battling addiction. Is like if you can't get this one thing, you end up getting that other thing, and sometimes addictions escalate in that way.
Yeah, so when she meets him, he's doing coke. And she happens to have a lot of coke in the warehouse that she's responsible for guarding.
No, like a lot.
Like a lot.
Mountains.
So,
Like
so
pallets. Full
he,
pallets of nose candy.
yeah, so he just hits the ground running and develops that addiction, and it's pretty deep.
Yeah. So then that's his next thing to fight. And please feel free in chat to ask follow-up questions if you all have any. That's totally fine. Or if you want to know more about something we're talking about, that's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just realized the music wasn't on, and I was like, something's weird here." All right.
Yeah. So
Do we want
Shadowcast
to?
said, so it's reverse Frankenstein.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't actually think about that while I was writing it until like after the fact, and people started asking me what my influences were, and I was like, oh.
Well, Lindsay loves Mary Shelley and has read that book how many times? Could you even count?
At least 5.
I know, Yuki, I'm sorry.
love
I know that character is a big nope for you, so we're not going to talk about any details about that. But yeah, the book does explore a lot of... No, don't worry, Yuki. Don't be sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for. But we'll just talk about... We'll talk around it, but not about it, if that makes sense. No, don't go. Yuki, please. You're good. No, I just brought up that I know Yuki doesn't really like the topic of Frankenstein. It freaks her out. So
well, it is...
We're moving on anyway.
I wrote a... Not exactly a thesis, because the undergrad program that I went to didn't do undergrad theses, but it would have been my thesis about Frankenstein. So I read that book a whole bunch of times. There's definitely a lot of influence in my creative work. But my sort of thesis was specifically about how in Frankenstein the mother is removed from the equation when it comes to having a child, making a child, and the ramifications of that on the child. And so I think that Tracy Queen very much is sort of a reverse of that. Like, so what if we just,
Especially in a time, in a culture where it was specifically presumed that fathers do not have parenting abilities. And so they weren't taught parenting abilities, and it wasn't nurtured. And so that really informs that topic terrifically. All right, let's go on to the next question, eh?
Next question. And also, Shadowcast, we did not get to your next question yet. I'm going in sort of a random order. Has Nikola ever joined Narcotics Anonymous or tried any programs to kick his addiction? He has not joined any programs. Being a raccoon, that would be real weird and difficult for the other people in the group.
Yeah, I think like if you were in an NA meeting and a raccoon walked in and started talking, it would probably everyone would check themselves into the hospital. You know what I mean? Like all of those people would be back in rehab real quick. This is not a world where raccoons talk. This is a world where Nikola was specifically experimented on, and that's why he can talk. So it would be weird.
Yeah. That being said, though, he does get his addiction mostly under control, and mostly kicks his habit throughout the course of the book because he finds sort of new meaning in life in the electronical engineering, the electrical engineering work that he does for Tracy,
electronical,
and in raising the
Adrian.
Issues podcast.
Hi.
It's a super chill conversational podcast.
Hi, Adrian. We're so happy you're here. Adrian has some dope questions, by the way. Adrian can freaking always dig deep.
Interviewer deep in his heart.
And so, yeah, Mass Effect says, yeah, if I saw a talking woodland animal, I definitely think I relapsed somehow.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't think you relapsed, the second you told that to someone else, they would think you relapsed. No, don't be sorry. We're stoked that you're here, Adrian.
Shadowcast says that would be a big, what was this punch spiked with?
Right.
So yeah, no, Nikola doesn't try programs to kick his habit, but he does sort of find, like, Nikola's a sort of a tortured soul. He doesn't come across that way. He's very wisecracking, but, he was very lost. He didn't ask to become a hyper-intelligent raccoon. But here he is, and one of his ways of coping is, with his addictions. And then he finds himself in like a fatherhood role over these drones that Tracy is creating and he's helping her with. And that really helps him find meaning and purpose. Um, so throughout the next few issues, we see him using drugs less and less. I don't think that he's necessarily squeaky clean at the end of it, but he doesn't feel a need to resort to that type of behavior because he has plenty of things to do that he would.
And he also sees, a lot of Tracy's behavior um, reflective of his own addictions, like her wine and caffeine addictions. Like he does kind of go head to head with her about that. Like, well, you're addicted, blah blah blah, too. And I think they both try to like, well, yours worse, and like, there's a little bit of like competition between them to be like better than each other there. And so that might kind of actually in an inadvertent way help, weirdly, like the competition to be like, I'm more put together than you. I think that affects that as well. Should we move on to the next question?
Next question.
And as I said before, some of you might not have heard it. Feel free to ask questions in chat too. Even if it's follow-up questions to what we're talking about or something unrelated, it's all good. More questions is more fodder for the conversation.
So this is a question for you, Jayel.
Someone asked me a question specifically?
Sometimes, from one panel to the next, Tracy's bangs are facing the opposite direction from what they were. Is that for compositional purposes and the flow of the art, or is she actually moving her hair?
It's kind of a joke on anime hair, actually. It started as like someone, early on when I was drawing that, someone pointed out that happens. And so I was like, yeah, that is really funny. So now I kind of do it like intentionally. Like it's just, there's certain little things, emergent properties that kind of developed along the way that have then become motifs. For example, you'll notice no matter what the lighting in the room is, grandfather's always in silhouette. No matter what angle Tracy faces, her hair is always away from her face magically. There's just like things like that that are kind of like, almost like inside jokes. Hi Yuki, welcome back.
Hi.
So it's like, it becomes a meme at a certain point. So I'm glad that stood out as something to ask about because it is intentional. It's just kind of intentionally dopey,
Yeah. The grandfather always being in silhouette thing is something that I wrote in.
Mm-hmm.
But the hair thing, yeah, like Jayel said, it sort of came into
it was an
on
emergent property.
Yeah. I love Tracy's hair, and I like that her bang thing is like getting more pronounced with time. It's like becoming her like
Tendril,
super villain or superhero like trademark sort of.
Yeah, it's like a it has a life to it,
Yeah.
and that's kind of fun. It's got character, and it's very expressive of her mood and character too.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of a cartoons generally thing, whether it's anime or not. Like I'm thinking about like Animaniacs. Like their ears will always be pointing whichever direction like they feel like, whether it has anything to do with the direction they're facing.
Kel McDigdug!
Oh, hello!
I love you, Kel McDonald. You're the best. There's a lot of people here who are the best, so nobody feel offended at that.
You're all top tier.
You're all the best. But I didn't want to leave Kale out from that statement. I wanted to specifically shine a spotlight on Kale McDonald art. Which, by the way, if anyone here isn't following Kale, follow Kale. Check out his socials. Good friend of mine.
Here.
Good friend of the stream.
Check out Adrian's and Shadowcast's
And
and
Yuki.
Yuki's. And, well, Mass Effects doesn't have as many socials. But still check him out, because he's cool.
Yeah, just like look at his name in chat and be like, cool.
Wow. Be impressed.
Be impressed.
You know what has always bugged me about anime hair?
What?
It's when someone has like bangs or something, and then their eyes move up under their hair, but
And you
you
could
can
see
still
them?
see their eyes through their hair.
So part of
That
that
bugs me.
is a really old school concept in manga
Oh, really?
going back to like hundreds of years ago.
Really?
That like the eyes being the window of the soul, like
Mhm.
you
You have to always be
you
able to
can
see that.
communicate without saying a word or having any facial expression just from the subtlety of the eyes.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's why
So you hate
manga.
my art. I knew it, Lindsay. Shit.
That's why manga, they always have big eyes. It's because they're showing that, like, the communication of this character's emotion is expressed through the eyes. And so it's like a vital part of the narrative, right?
Speaking of eyes, I was watching a clip from an interview.
Gelden, welcome in.
Hello.
Thanks for making it.
Where Stephen Colbert was interviewing Gary Oldman, and he was saying, like, how do you turn on bad guy mode? Like when you're just
Gary
sitting here
Oldman's
looking
good
at me,
at that.
could you
Holy
go
butts.
from good guy to bad guy right in front of me? And Gary Oldman said this is a trick that he learned like in an acting class a long time ago. Is you put your head down, and then you lift your head, then your eyes, and that's like bad guy right there.
Yeah.
I mean, he probably put like some microfacial expression I can't even describe into it because he's good like
I think
that.
it was Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator retrospective documentary. Was talking about his inspiration for the Terminator, and he said he was thinking of like the Terminator as the ultimate predator. So he was thinking about what's the ultimate predator, and he thought, well, frickin' great white sharks, right? Like that's cold, scary, nothing can stop it. If it wants to get you, it's gonna get you. And he was watching videos of them, and he noticed that their eyes turn first, and then they turn their head at you.
Oh,
So
it's
he
like
does
the
that
opposite.
in the Terminator, where like
Yeah.
he'll like scan with his eyes and then with his head, and like it's like locked on target, you know. So yeah, it's cool.
Jasenia's practicing being a bad guy right now. I think we all are. Hale says, I call that move being distracted by what I'm reading but trying to show you I'm listening.
Now I know it's evil.
Mm-hmm.
Fellas, is it evil to have ADHD?
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the tweet.
That's the tweet.
All right. Next question. Will there be an asexual character? Yeah. For all intents and purposes, although we're not really sure what his preference is, Nikola is asexual. He is involved in sexual situations all the time because he's like filming them and stuff. He feels no need to get involved. Tracy's always asking him if he's into her. No. Are you gay? No. He always just says, I'm a raccoon, Tracy. But he never really answers the question. I think
but we don't know if he was with another raccoon how he'd feel.
No, we don't. We don't.
And also, you know, raccoon gender, exactly.
Oh, that's a good one.
So the clones, we presumably are mostly, if not all, ace. But what about human characters?
I don't have any human characters that are specifically ace.
It would be really cool if Tracy had like a romantic partner that was ace.
Everybody, can you see how gigantic this cat is? This is Fern. I weighed him the other day. He is 14.2 pounds of pure cat. Gigantic. His second birthday is coming up.
He's such a baby.
One big kitty. Sure
He's
is.
such a baby.
He's such a cute
He's
guy.
such a baby.
Like, oh god. You're so floppy.
Big baby.
Alright.
Yeah, he is a big baby. 6 pounds heavier than your 4-year-old? Wow.
Holy moly.
He a bit chunky.
He's a bit of a chunky baby. But, I mean, in cat years, he's like a teenager. He's a derpy teenager.
He is so derpy. He's the derpiest cat I've ever met. And you know what? I always thought to myself, I want a regal cat if I ever get a cat. Like a really regal cat who knows what he wants and knows how to listen and is very proper. And like we got Chow, and Chow is exactly that cat, you know. Chow is the most regal freaking dude I've ever met. And then I was like, well, all right, you know, I got that need out of my system. And, you know, then Fern showed up and was the Complete opposite of Regal. The dopiest cat I've ever met. And I was like, oh my god, I love him so freaking much.
Fern is definitely not a runt. His sister, I think, was the runt, actually. She's significantly smaller than him.
And even she's not tiny. She's just smaller than him, which is a low bar.
Yeah, she's like on the smaller end of cat, but she's not tiny. Alright, next question.
Next question.
What is Tracy's reaction when she realizes she's pansexual?
Mm.
Oh, that's a good question. So,
I'll let you field this as the writer.
oh, but it sounded like you had something right.
I did.
Go
I
for
mean,
it.
we talked about like scenes where she encounters X thing for the first time, and her just being like, "Oh, okay," you know, like there's like a, "Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Let's try it," you know. Like, yeah, I can't think of any necessarily like specific examples, but we've talked about the idea that like, you know, even when the first time she was solo camming, that was something that like she was like, ew, no one would want to watch that. And Nikola was like, Tracy, everyone's gonna want to watch that. And so she's like, all right, I'll try it. She tries it and has a blast. And I think that that sets the stage for her continuing journey of self-exploration, where it's like, all right, I don't know what that's like. I'll try it, you know?
I think that's a
And
really good
it
point.
turns out that she just enjoys feeling good and making people feel good, and she doesn't see what the big deal is in that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's, I think that reflects in all of her experimentation.
Yeah, I think
At
that's
a
true.
point, she stops seeing it as experimentation and just starts seeing it as par for the course. You know, it's how she relates.
Yeah. I think that one of the secrets of Tracy being really chill about whatever her sexual orientation ends up being for her,
Parkour.
is that she was raised in this very cloistered environment where she's
Super cloistered, right? Like imperialistically cloistered. Like,
yeah, like she was allowed to go to college because she wanted to, but then she was expected to come back, you know, and like work
take
for
over
the family.
the Dragon Clan.
She has way more education than martial arts and, you know, how to run a gang.
She knows more about killing people than about living as an adult.
But
you know?
she was always very controlled, very managed by her grandfather, and as such, she just kind of was going through the motions of what was expected of her, and it didn't occur to anyone that she might not be straight, including herself. She was just doing what she was supposed to do. So she dated guys, and that was fine. And so she just assumed that she was straight until she's faced with the prospect of engaging with romantically and sexually people who are not cis guys, and she's like, ah, cool. Because I think that the process of her coming out of the closet started with her deciding to take control over her own sexual experience, as opposed to coming out of a self-imposed restriction on how she could identify.
There's a scene, right, where she is casting and she actually casts someone and doesn't know what FTM stands for.
Right, yeah.
And so she casts someone who's FTM, and they show up and, you know, they're getting naked and getting ready, and she's like, oh, cool. You know, like, that's
and he's
awesome,
like, what did you
you
expect?
know?
And she's like,
I don't know.
Not this.
And they have a great time, you know? It's like, and that kind of joke, I think, stems from, as you all know, anytime anyone puts any abbreviations in chat, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just like, my brain just doesn't get it. People are like, you know, BIAB, and I'm like, better in a what? What? I don't know.
That's probably what it is.
So yeah, it's just like there's a kind of neurology that just doesn't latch on to abbreviations and acronyms, and I have that, and I think Tracy has that.
Tracy's one of those people that's like, I'd rather not put labels on it.
Sounds BIAB to me. Burgers in a bathtub. I agree.
Oh, I'm hungry, turns out. Wow.
You want to have some burgers in a bathtub after this?
Yeah. There was something else I was thinking of saying, and now it has escaped me. Oh, I know what it was. So there's this interview that David Bowie did in probably the early 90s or something, where they asked him if he was bisexual, and he's like, more like trisexual. And then the interviewer keeps talking, and he's like, wait, ask me what trisexual is. And she's
I'll
like,
try
what is
anything.
I'll try anything once.
So, Shadowin says Tracy sounds like a parallel to the American experience, being raised ultra-violent but new to sexuality. I actually disagree. I think that the American experience is growing up playing video games where you get extra points for headshots, and killing people is on every show, even kid shows and cartoons, but sexuality is seen as taboo. To the point where when I even try to post about Tracy Queen on Facebook, I get blocked from Facebook for a week,
That's what Shadowcast is saying, though.
Oh, yeah, I was reading it as opposite. I don't know why. Yes, it is parallel to the American experience. Correct. Sorry, I read that the wrong way and my brain just went the opposite direction. But yeah, it's like we're encouraged to be ultra violent, but sex is like only for breeding when you're married. And it's like, we don't have to get married. We don't have to breed. We can if we want to, but we don't have to. You can just have sex for fun, This month has been... It's okay. Reading is hard. I agree. Okay, so yes, Shadowcast, you are correct. That is parallel.
All right, the next question is, what happened to Tracy's mom and or any other family? That
Correct,
is...
Kelvin.
What? Is that why your Facebook doesn't have this?
Tell us what all those letters stand for. Nope. Not gonna do it. I'll let you have a go at it, Kel, while we're answering the next 10 questions. Last update is like 10:24 on my Facebook page? Oh, my page, not my profile. Yes, correct. Yeah, I probably should post to my page. It's a good point. I think pages used to be like for fandoms, and then they became so monetized that if you don't pay for people to see your posts on your page, people don't see them. So I think a lot of people just kind of don't use their pages anymore unless they're paying to play, We do post a lot more to our Oneshi Press page, though, to be fair. I'm on mobile. There's no way.
So, what happened to Tracy's family? That is... I don't know if I want to say it all or not, because it comes up in the story, but not
I think
yet.
people here have the right to spoilers.
So...
I mean, and nothing is a spoiler. Plot points are just plot points. It's the execution of how these things come up. That's the real juice of Tracy Queen. Like, I could tell you the whole plot, and then you could read it, and it will still slap, because it's just such bonkers and gonzo execution.
So, Tracy's mom and dad have both passed away in Japan. So, Tracy was born in Japan, and her grandfather ran a crime family over there. Her father was her grandfather's son and was also involved in the crime family, and he was killed during, a gang fight, basically. And her grandfather was so upset by this that he left Japan, vowed never to return, and also vowed never to use guns, because that's what killed his son. So he came over to America and built this new life and brought Tracy with him when she was very, very young. So she has grown up in America. She is, for all intents and purposes, American. Her grandfather, though, has some, ideas about how to be that are based on his generation of crime syndicate politics in Japan. And he's very honor-bound, but his idea of what honor entails does not line up with what Tracy thinks honor entails. And there's a lot of headbutting that goes on. But
It's kind of like Worf's idea of honor versus other Klingons he encounters' idea of honor,
yeah,
because he wasn't raised
everyone else is like, "What the hell
in
are you
Klingon
talking about?"
culture,
And he's like,
right?
"No, this is how we do it." So Tracy's mother passed away from unrelated reasons when Tracy was very, very young. Doesn't really remember her mom. She barely remembers her dad, but she has been raised by her grandfather almost entirely, and that's one reason that she's so cloistered as a child. You know, her grandfather is not only has a very like narrow worldview, but he also is like hyper focused on her survival. So he pushes her to be this like ultimate warrior so that nothing can happen to her, but he also keeps her in this little bubble where violence is the norm, but he has every faith in her that she can handle herself. But when it comes to like the outside world, not so much. That's that. I love spoilers. It gets me in trouble, says Jasenia. Oh, I hate spoilers. Arcadia says, doesn't Brandon Sanderson say in his lecture series that there's a percentage of novel readers that always read the ending first, then read the book knowing? Some research shows that makes them more engaged and not less.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. And I think honestly, people that have a fear of releasing spoilers end up not having any engaged audience. Like, you have to release spoilers for people to see that something is going to be in this book that they are going to care about. You know, like, if you're so afraid of spoilers that you don't show anyone anything, they're not going to read it. You know, they're not going to care. They're going to be like, well, I don't know what that's about. I don't know if I'm going to like it. You have to give people spoilers for them to know that they're going to like it. And it's like when you go to like the food court at the mall and they always give you that like free piece of bourbon chicken
Always bourbon chicken.
at like, like the wok restaurant, right? They're always like, oh, here, bourbon chicken sampler.
The wok restaurant.
You try that shit, yeah, it's like, whatever. There's always some variation of walk in the name, like walk this way or something, you know? They give you that piece of bourbon chicken and you're like, oh, I wasn't really thinking about food, but yeah, I'll take a sample. And then you eat it and you're like, oh, fuck. Now I need to go house a plate of bourbon chicken. Yeah, that's how it works. You have to give people that taste for them to care, you know? Shadowcast says, Dory, well, if nothing will happen to her, then nothing will happen to her. Finding Nemo reference.
Aw, I haven't seen that movie for a while.
Just keep swimming.
Next question.
Next question. And also, everyone in chat, please feel free to continue asking questions as we go.
As a feminist work, how does Tracy Queen represent intersectionality across race, class, gender, nationality, ability, etc.?
Woo!
I mean, by representing it. So, okay. Tracy Queen is, like we were saying before, is someone who is sort of unfazed by new possibilities. She, especially when it comes to her work in adult entertainment, she's faced with, you know, a new body type or a new personality type or a new kink or a new whatever. She's like, cool, give this a try. And I think it was important to me that I extend that to the people that she works with. So Tracy has partners of as many different variations as I could fit into the script.
And presumably much more outside of that. You know, like,
Mhm.
what's in the script is a sample smattering, but we're assuming, you know, she's doing this all the time on the regular to the point where she gets famous for it. And so, yeah, we try to exemplify it, like specific scenarios,
Yeah.
but there's, you know.
Yeah, so the interactions that she has, a lot of them are teaching moments for her, where she's learning something new from someone. So when I was writing it, I was basing characters on real people who I knew from the adult entertainment industry who have specialties or focuses or kinks or, you know, whatever. So rather than being focused so much on representing a wide variety of, say, nationalities, classes, etc., I was actually focusing more on what these people are bringing to the table in their professional life. Um, and because I would actually say that the pornography industry is one of the most wide open, industries out there. If you're good at what you do, there's a place for you. Um, Even more so now that like OnlyFans and stuff is out there, you can really make a niche for yourself in a
Yeah,
way that
keep in mind, a lot of Tracy's success as a solo cam girl predates like Fansly and OnlyFans and Chatterbait and all these platforms that exist
no,
today that
Chatterbait was around.
oh really? Okay. Well, no one knew what it was. Except for like 5 people.
I'm pretty sure it was anyway.
But no, in 2012, I don't think it was.
I feel like I was getting Chatterbait merch at porn conventions in 2020.
Okay, so maybe they were trying to make it a thing.
My free cams was
Yeah,
I think
right.
Chatterbait was around.
Chatterbait was definitely around.
See?
All right. Adrian asked a question. Wait, are we done with that question?
Well, no, I mean it was very
Since you
important
were in
to
high
me
school,
to
what was that,
show-
2 years ago, Sora? Come on, cute little baby.
I'm thinking of intersectionality across race, class, gender, nationality, ability, etc. Yeah.
You're always a cute little baby to me.
I think by virtue of focusing on trying to have a large swath of humanity represented through sexuality, there's intersectionality built into the script. And that also brought in intersections with other
And then also,
categories.
we also had Spicy Dragon
Right.
do that entire art book, the Spicy Zine.
That is
Which
very
it's
focused on
called
this.
Spicy Zine, but it is, make no mistake, an art book. It is full page, highly detailed illustrations. And
Really, really beautiful.
the whole art book is just Tracy Queen in kind of like edict scenarios, right? Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. So edict was like the edict on Star Trek, right? And that's literally an acronym for infinite diversity in infinite combinations.
Gene Roddenberry original.
Yeah. And so, I think that that's a big part of that. Adrian asked, Q, 4 books in, Tracy's journey of independence and autonomy exudes more confidence. This seems to be mirrored in both the art and even tightness of the script. What would you say has been the most rewarding aspect of working on this book compared to previous entries? So, I think that's a question for both of us to answer separately. I mean, you definitely continued to develop them and continued to edit them and continued to reflect on them, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the most rewarding aspect of it for me, though, is that I'm going back to something that I wrote the nuts and bolts for like a decade ago, and I'm like, this is pretty good. Good job, past Lynsey. Thanks. I mean, it sounds kind of silly maybe, but as a creative person, that's enormously rewarding because so many times as creative people, we go back to things that we did in the past and we hate them now. So it feels really, really good.
I think... Oh no, you're in an ad? Oh, is everyone watching an ad right now, or can anyone hear us?
If nobody answers, then I guess they're all watching.
Please respond in chat if you can hear this. Beep. Respond now. I guess everyone's watching an ad. What do I do? Subs can hear. Aha. No ad here. Alright. I'll try to answer slowly. So, for me, I think the most rewarding part of working on this was healing. As a young artist, in my in my teens, and even into my early 20s, but especially in my teens when I was coming into my own sexually, and I didn't really understand it. I didn't have an informed context of sexuality. I only had secret, desires and things that I knew should be kept secret, and I didn't know why. And I felt very judged by older folks looking at my art whenever I tried to explore contexts of sexuality. I felt, from my family and, just shamed. And even from peers and friends, they would make it into something like dirty and he, and it's like, it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be pretty, And like, a big part of me was killed from that, And now here I am working on this story that's all about separating those concepts and liberating this into something beautiful and pointing out that, like, the violence is the bad part, but, like, consensual pleasure is beautiful and wonderful and nice, and no one should feel bad about that. And so having to work on that and having to explore concepts that I never explored before visually, and having to draw things that I never would have drawn before visually. Sometimes I'd get red in the face, I'd get embarrassed, I'd feel bad, I didn't want to show people, but then I would, and I realized this is important work. People are responding, and I felt better about it, and the better I felt about it, the more I could do with it, and the more I could do with it, the more I did do, and the more healing it was for me. So yeah, as a creator, it's liberating for me through this story. And the more I work on it, the more healed and liberated I feel, and the less dirty topics of sex and sexuality feel, and the more clean and beautiful they are. Like, it doesn't feel dirty. It feels clean. It feels dirty for people to shame it and hide it and put it in a box and make it taboo and turn it into a monster. Like, seriously, when you take those things that are naturally part of you and feel shame about them and hide them, they become monsters. And when you let them out of the box and nurture them, they become companions. They become, something you can't imagine your life without. And so, yeah, I think it's been transformative for me as the illustrator. And I hope that that transformative property also transcends to the reader. Yeah.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah.
Shadowcast says, so you as creators are also being liberated through this story. Yes, very, very much so. I never decided that I was going to be a person who wrote about sex. I sort of fell into it, but then was like, oh, no, this is my jam.
Can you feel this while I step away for a moment?
And most of that writing that I did on the topic of sexuality and specifically pornography was journalism. So, nonfiction of, I was interviewing people, I was doing reviews, I was writing like op-eds, I was doing all kinds of, nonfiction stuff, which was fascinating and amazing, and I learned so much, but the creator part of me really needed a way to write about all of the things that I knew and that were all the processing that was going on for me in a fiction setting. So that's what Tracy Queen is. It's me sort of working through a lot of what Jayel's talking about as well. Because I think my being drawn toward the sex industry as a subject for writing was very much based on wanting to liberate myself from the shame and the silence and the fear that I grew up with that, is ingrained into most of us about these topics. And so I explored the real world, the sex industry in the real world, and I wanted to be able to take that and make something more creative out of it. So that's very much what Tracy Queen is. And it has been basically like my life thesis is that the things that you don't talk about, the things that you keep in the shadows, are the things that turn into monsters. And I know that there's still a time and a place for talking about sexual matters. They're not always appropriate for everybody, everywhere.
Like, don't bring it up at a funeral, maybe. Unless it's like a funeral for a really famous, like, porn star.
Yeah.
Or a not famous porn star, but either way.
But I really feel that it's important that we take the topic of sex, and very much so of sex work, seriously and engage with it better. Because the more we talk about it, the less scary it gets. And so Tracy Queen is one way of doing that. There's also cyborgs and, talking raccoon and stuff, because it's fun.
I think also, like, while Tracy Queen is definitely not for children, and I would never show it to a child, I think
nobody should ever read the things that Dickie Doublefinger says, ever.
Yeah, no one should. It's not for anyone. In fact, stop reading it right now. Why are you
Sign
even
out
here?
Immediately.
No, not because it's scary, but because it's inappropriate. Because children cannot consent. So when we talk about the importance of consent, it's also important to understand that while children may get up to things with each other, with other children, and they might experiment and they might play, and that's between them, their parents, each other, but adults giving something to a child that is they can't consent because the dynamic is incorrect. It's a power dynamic.
Asking more about what I said about things in the shadows.
Oh, I thought you meant why I wouldn't give it to a child. Would it be scary?
I don't. Well, I'm not sure.
Well, either way, it's things that I didn't understand as a kid. I didn't understand consent. I didn't understand that I couldn't consent to an adult because it's an unfair power dynamic. Adults have authority over children. So, like, I didn't understand that. And I should have. I should have understood that. I think that ideas of consent are something that should be talked about and put in our heads at a very young age. But that should be done in a manner that's appropriate for children. Whereas Tracy Queen isn't appropriate for anyone, let alone children. So, it's...
Run away! This is inappropriate for everyone.
Adrian says, I resonate with a lot of what Jayel just said. While not out to everyone, understanding myself as a queer person has been met with a lot of deep reflection. Having a character like Tracy is super important, not just for fellow pan rep, though it's nice. Adults need someone to look up to as well, I guess. Yeah, and I mean, part of that is, like, Tracy is not the perfect role model. She's not a perfect person. She makes bad decisions.
Yeah, she makes a lot of bad decisions.
She fucks up. She does ethically questionable things. But do you have to be a perfect person to be able to teach someone something?
Well, and also, like, I think that although she makes a lot of poor decisions and isn't always ethical, the decision that she made to become an adult performer and to have awesome sex with people and profit on it is not one of those bad decisions. It's the best thing she ever did for herself. And I think it's really important that people realize that's a legit decision that can happen, that people can make. And like with many other things, in a lot of situations, there are systems in place that make it difficult and make it hard to be ethical. And, within, like, the standard old-fashioned, like, porn-making system, there are people that profit off of other people's suffering. That is true. But it doesn't mean that making the decision to be sexually open and be yourself and pursue pleasure is bad. And that can be hard to pick apart, but I do think that Tracy's journey is like one of the things that makes it fun is that she's having fun. She really loves what she does. She doesn't see it as shameful or scary. It's all of the people orbiting around her that are trying to take that away from her or hurt her in some way. They're the ones who are wrong.
Do you think Tracy is neurodivergent coded?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right. Because I was just thinking about that. I'm like, right. In her mind, she doesn't see what's wrong with it. Therefore, she rejects what she's been told about it being wrong. And that, to me, is like, oh yeah, my whole life. Like, if I didn't understand why something was wrong, it wasn't wrong. And if you didn't explain to me why it's wrong and you can't tell me why it's wrong, it's not wrong. You know, like, and a lot of that is just not going with the flow, which is typical neurotypical behavior. And atypical behavior is saying, like, well, if I don't get the flow, I'm not going with it, you know?
And I want to take a moment to address what Yuki asked, which is why would it be scary? Because I know kids should be kept safe and learn about things when they are older and ready. So I think that what you mean is like, why would sexuality be scary? And I think that there's an important distinction there,
Yep.
which is that sex and sexuality and all that stuff isn't inherently scary.
Right. It
There's
might just
nothing
be inappropriate
wrong with it.
for an adult.
No. That's not what we're talking about. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing inherently scary about it. But society has made it scary for you. And that there's a lot, like, I could probably talk for 3 hours straight about that. But like, there's a lot of forces at play, like, you know, politicians and church officials and people who have put it into people's heads that sex should be scary, that we shouldn't talk about it for a lot of reasons that I don't agree with. And I think that the idea of sex is scary to a lot of people now because it has been so long that people have been told that it's scary, that now people think it's scary. But I really don't think that it needs to be.
Right.
So when I say that this topic is scary, I'm talking more about the way that people react to it based on all of this societal pressure that's been heaped on us for literally like centuries and centuries and centuries.
And it being weaponized and
Yep.
turned into something abusive when it should never be.
Right.
It should never, ever be about anything but feeling good and sharing that. And when it's used as a weapon of domination, it is taking something so beautiful and so sacred and twisting it into the worst thing it could possibly be. That, you know, that alone is something a lot of people have experienced, unfortunately, and leaves them scarred because it's a supreme betrayal of everything that we are.
And I think that what it comes down to, in my understanding, if I try to make it as simple as possible, it's that because sex is a very personal and very powerful motivator and force in people's lives, some very bad people long, long ago figured out that if they could control the way that people feel and act when it comes to sex, they would have a lot of power over those people.
Yeah, they could control everything about their lives.
Right. And that is, I think, very much what has happened for a very long time through the church and through politics and
Empires.
and empires and all of those people trying to control
Centralized authorities in general.
and especially by exerting power onto other people. So by teaching people to be afraid of sex and not talk about it and not be open about it, it makes people feel afraid and vulnerable when it comes to sex. It makes people afraid to speak up for themselves.
It makes
If
people
something
feel like
bad
they don't
happens
know
to
what they're
them.
doing, they don't know how to communicate.
Right, and because there's not a lot of information available about how to be healthy and happy about these kinds of things, there's sort of just this big dark shadow that all of it exists in, and people have fear about big dark shadows.
And granted, it's not for everyone, and that's
And
okay.
that's
And
fine.
that's part of the point, is that should also be okay.
Right.
It shouldn't be like, oh, well, you just haven't met the right, person yet, or
Right.
you'll get married, you'll grow out of it, it's a phase. It's like, no, some
Yeah.
people just aren't into that. And that is just as important as feeling okay about being into it, is feeling okay about not being into it. And that just being a personality thing and not having anything to do with right or wrong,
Yeah. And I think that a lot of the sort of the rules about what's okay sexually specifically apply to women. And one of the reasons is that for a long time people have wanted to control women and keep their sexuality under control so that they can control women and their bodies and their ability to have babies. And so Tracy specifically is saying, "Well, that's all ridiculous. I don't I don't want anything to do with any of that. I'm not taking part in it." So what she's doing feels scary to the people who are trying to make her be afraid and do what they want her to do. So, although what she's doing is not bad, it is perceived that way by people who want to control her.
I want to catch up with chat here. So having an important role model, Adrian says, isn't always about perfection, and I wholeheartedly agree. Adrian continues to say, knowing that people are flawed to a certain extent means more to me than somebody who pretends to never have had issues. And we all know Adrian has issues, and that's why Adrian is such a great role model. Um, yeah, I think that especially when we can see a character's growth and trajectory, we can grow with them. Characters that are just perfect, there's nothing to learn from them because you can't be perfect. You aren't. No one is. I'm not perfect. Lindsay's not perfect.
Yeah, I am.
We've both hurt people. We've both
No.
made mistakes. We've
Not me.
both said and done stupid things.
Never.
Being a role model is about learning from those mistakes and sharing what we've learned from them, right? And being honest about the fact that we're not perfect people. No one is. And if you need a role model to be perfect, what you're saying is there are no role models, except for deified myths made out of people who were killed by empires in the past. That's no kind of role model. Someone that you can't be like isn't a role model. You know, someone who grew and worked through it and tried to get better, that's a role model because that's something we can all do, right? Yuki says, I don't get what Tracy's doing that's so wrong. I mean, aside from the robot war thing, that sounds kind of bad and at the very least unsafe. That's the bad thing. I mean, that's really the only part of what she's doing that is questionable, is the whole, like, building a cyborg army and using them as warriors. Like, that's not great. Everything else that she's doing, I think, is pretty awesome. She's very upfront and communicative and consent driven, and she works out everything that's going to happen in her scenes with her partners ahead of time and makes sure they're all on board. And you know what I mean? Like, she's very ethical when it comes to sexuality, not so ethical when it comes to dealing with people she perceives as her enemies. Again, no one's perfect. Madam asks, do you think it's worse in the US than it is in most other countries? So we have to realize, while there's nearly 300 countries in the world, right? Like, the US is what I would call a second world country. And we are catching up to first world countries in a lot of ways, but a lot of the first world countries really have quite the lofty position. They can be as progressive as they want while they have massive colonies all over the planet and are raking in money from third world countries, right? So, like, we could talk about how progressive European countries are while they're collecting billions of dollars from third world countries all over the place. It's a lofty position. I think the US is still trying to become that kind of empire. And so the US on the rise is more aggressive about its imperial tactics, whereas countries that are done being empires and are just raking in the rewards of having been empires for so long, are a little bit more positioned in a way that they can pretend to be above it. But I do think that it's a globalized issue in modern human society. And I think having the loftiness to like pretend that you're super progressive while you have colonies all over the world that are paying for your citizens' healthcare, it's like, cool, bro, you do you, but I see through that shit, you know? Um, I think that humanity at large has been globally affected by imperial tactics for long enough that we really all need to band together and do away with this shit for once and for all. It's hard to say worse or not. It's really just where they are in that rat race, you know?
I think the question was about sexual morality.
Oh. I thought we were talking about imperialism and, yeah, sexual morality coming from that, right? So, like, to me, it's not unrelated. The sexual morality does come from, right, like, needing to grow your empire, needing to build colonies. That's why breeding laws are in place. That's why the breeding law mentality affects our morality around sexuality. If the only kind of sex that's okay is the kind of sex that leads to babies, we're going to have more babies, and those babies are going to grow up poor, and they're going to join the army, and they're going to go colonize other countries because they have no fucking choice because we've bred too much. That is what you see in empires on the rise. Empires that are already successful, they're like, oh, you don't need to breed more. We already have our colonies all over the world. You can just have your healthcare and have your, prophylactics for free and all that stuff. It's a lofty position. And so, is it better that they have that lofty position because they have already done their colonizing? You tell me. That's a big fucking question, though. Bonds, how are you, bud? What's happening? Yuki says, it just seems weird to be scared of sex. I mean, as long as people are not hurting anyone, I don't see why anyone would care about it so much. Yes, and I wholeheartedly agree, Yuki. It is weird, and there's a lot of weirdness out there. It's okay for someone to be like, it's not for me, but to be against it is weird. It's just weird. But a lot of that is internalized from teachings, which largely stem from growing your population as a way of fighting off other countries with larger populations. Shadowcast says, Yuki, right? Yeah, that's the ridiculous part. But that's why Tracy is fighting against that silliness. Be right back, gonna grab some more tea. Arcadia says, yeah, nothing like some calming chamomile and Jayel's rants about imperialism while watching sunset. Yuki says, shouldn't silliness be fun like pukas and clowns?
That would be better.
Yeah.
That would be way better.
How are you doing, Bonds? We're doing a little Q&A about Tracy Queen. If you have any questions, now's the time, because we're going deep into it. Madam says, nudity seems like such a natural and appreciated thing in advertisement and art, some other places, and here it's kept under lock and key. Yeah. Again, that's an empire on the rise versus an empire that's already succeeded.
You know what, though? I mean, it varies so much from place to place. I think that the U.S. has a really
middle ground,
unhealthy relationship with sex, and I think that largely comes
like
from the fact that we were founded by Puritans, who were what are you gonna do? But I think that very top-down authoritarian model of power has continued in the way that we look at and think about sex, and it's dark. It's dark. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of prescriptive practices, but those are common elsewhere as well. And sometimes I think of America as like such a prude place, but I remember this one time I was in Las Vegas for a porn convention. Okay, I was eating dinner at, I think it was at a Korean restaurant, and there was like a TV on the other side of the restaurant, like over the person I was eating with, like over their head, you know. So I was like talking, but also like looking up from time to time and looking at the music videos that they were playing. It was all K-pop videos, and the sexuality that the people in K-pop videos are permitted to express is very, you know, they're cute, they're definitely sexy, but it's like very low key. And
like there's a narrow box of what you can get away with.
Right.
You see that also in like Bollywood music videos.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then
where it's like overtly sexual but not outside of the bounds.
It's not overtly sexual. It's very coy. And so then
okay, yes, it's the innuendos though
so
are thick.
The conversation like continued, and I wasn't paying attention to the TV for a little while, and when I looked up again, there's a new music video on, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow, who is this person? They're absolutely breaking the mold. There's like so much more skin and like overt sexuality in this video. And then I realized it was a Beyonce video. And that really helped, like, just that moment of like realizing the difference between what, you know, in many ways we consider Korea to be like so far ahead of us in so many things. But then in some ways we are more able to express ourselves that way. So I'm just saying it's all very relative.
A big difference there is, again, when it's deified and someone you can't touch and can't relate to, it's okay. But when it's humanized, it's not okay. And that's the difference. Right? Like you see the imperial edict throughout time and space on this planet of like, it's okay when it's a deity, when it's someone you can't touch, when it's someone you can't even shake their hand. But when it's human, that's when it's different.
Maybe.
You know. But Adrian asks another question, and I do want to keep up with chat. Adrian says, Q, Tracy Queen as a character and an ideal is important, but there's also a lot of elements in this story that are wholesomely irreverent, i.e. the clone army, talking raccoon, etc. Can you describe your experience working on the fantastical side of the narrative and how it's been expanded on or maybe even dialed back in book 4?
It's definitely been expanded upon.
I was just gonna say, I think book 4 we see even more of it, and it's even more over the top and more gonzo. There's just, I think some of it comes across more subtly because we also have a blossoming romance between Tracy and Elle. And Smurgle, Burgle, Burble, Kerbal. Hey, Smurgle, how you doing? And I think in that blossoming romance, there's more of a pause on the gonzo aspects of the story, where we see a little bit more two people getting to see each other as people and know each other as people. But while that's happening, there's like commotion in the lab as Nikola is building the Howie bot, and like things are going crazy and exploding, and you know, like, so that irreverent gonzo aspect is actually kind of dialed up because it's juxtaposed with the, like, you know, more banal, like, conversations of, like, getting to know you, I'm so proper and normal, he, you know. And I think that makes it actually more wacky and more wild and a bit more fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely dialed up because Tracy's gone from like
Wednesday stream.
Tracy's gone from like a bombastic personality that's doing some crazy stuff to like, what the hell is going on? And she is locked in.
And Tracy's all like, what? What do you mean? Everything's normal. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. What was that sound? I don't know. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Tracy, did you just walk into your closet?
No, this is the bathroom.
No, there's a bathroom in there.
You can't use it though. It's my personal.
It's a secret bathroom.
Yeah, it's getting to like silly sitcom territory where like
Oh my
one
god.
person is pretending to be two people. And
Shadowwind, I swear to God, if you ask about woodchucks, I'm gonna do something weird.
How much?
How much? How much butts could a side butt if a side butt could butt butts? Definitely all of them. Shadowcast, the tea worm has got the tea.
Let's do a little break.
Spill that tea.
And play the video.
All right. We're gonna.
I need a stretch. I've been sitting in this chair for an hour and a half.
Okay.
Right.
We're gonna
We'll be
play
right
that
back.
video for
Don't
you all.
go anywhere unless you run
Remember,
away screaming.
The bloopers are awesome, so please enjoy them. Okay. I'm gonna
Okay.
mute my music.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute my mic.
Hi, I'm Lynsey G. I am the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Oneshi Press, and I am the writer of Tracy Queen, the ultra-spicy comic book series.
Hi, I'm Jayel Draco. I am the co-founder and lead designer of Oneshi Press, and I'm the illustrator of Tracy Queen.
Tracy Queen follows a woman who leaves behind a life of violence to pursue pleasure.
She escapes her grandfather's crime syndicate and takes the world of adult film by storm.
But success comes at a cost. Everyone wants a piece, and her violent past won't let her go.
Even as she redefines empowerment and independence.
The forces of prudery and repression try to take her down.
Tracy Queen, volumes 1 through 3 are already finished and printed. Now it's time to bring volume 4, This Is Huge, to life.
This time, we're also funding a spicy zine featuring Tracy Queen and her diverse zine partners, all created by erotic art virtuoso Spicy Dragon.
All we need is your support to print and ship these books to you.
We're bringing Tracy Queen volumes 1 through 4 to Kickstarter, a platform that helps connect creators with readers and make a living doing what they love.
We love Kickstarter, and with your support, this will be our 22nd successfully funded campaign.
Pledge now to get Tracy Queen 1 to 4 in print or digital, your choice of mild or spicy variant covers, and the spicy zine.
Plus, a thank you in the book and on our website, the Tracy Queen theme song, the audio commentary, a miniature figurine,
and as always, we'll have a tree planted in your honor as part of our ongoing partnership with the global reforestation heroes at One Tree Planted.
With your support, we're bringing Tracy Queen 1 through 4 and the Spicy Zine to life.
Thank you for backing this project. We couldn't do this without you.
So check out the rewards and pick the tier that's right for you.
And don't forget to grab some sweet add-ons while you're at it.
Thank you.
I am the editor and co-founder of things that I'm not off to a good start.
I'm the co-founder, lead designer, and illustrator of...
But success comes at a cost. It sure does.
Try that one more time. This is huge.
Can't put that on Kickstarter.
Tracy Queen volumes 1 through 3 are already printed.
That is a weird phrase, isn't it?
Check out the rewards and pick the tier.
I was like, wow, this one's good.
You gotta try the champagne.
Oh, there's...
Red Baron! I hate this guy!
Now we see the violence inherent in the system.
Is that alright? Should I try it one more time?
Thank you.
All right, what'd you all think of that?
What do you think of that?
What do you think of that? You guys think that's silly? Serious? Bonkers? See you on the flip side. Not following this up today, we've peaked.
Gotta try that champagne.
Success comes at a cost, and that cost is expletive deleted. Champagne! Champagne! It's Red Baron wine. Fucking Red Baron. Oh, K-pop has a lot of nopes. I didn't know that. I'm sorry, Yuki.
Are we muted?
Are we unmuted? Can you guys
Yeah,
hear
we're
us?
unmuted.
We're unmuted. I was gonna tell you that you were muted, but lol, decided that would be mean. To mess with me? Thank you for not messing with me. Can hear, can confirm. Spicy all day. So,
All day, day.
do we have more questions
Yes,
on
we
this
do.
list?
Mhm.
Let's go for them while people in chat think about their own questions they want to ask.
All right.
I'm good.
Sounds
Great.
VABIAB.
Sounds better in a butt on my speakers.
Always. What kind of thought process goes into naming your characters? Do the names mean something, or are they just names?
That's a Lindsay question.
Well,
maybe I've named a few.
They all mean something.
Like Nikola is from Nikola Tesla.
Right. Thank God I didn't name him Tesla. Can you imagine?
Oh God, I'm so glad.
Yeah, he's named after Nikola Tesla. Tracy is named after the person she's based on's middle name. And obviously she's a queen. So she's the queen bee because she makes a whole hive of drones to be her army for her. So the queen. And then Miss L is my personal insert character, and my porn reviewing name was Miss Lags a Lot. So she's Miss L is based on me.
And I actually decided to design them differently so that Tracy does not look like the person she's based on, and Miss L does not look like Lindsay.
Yeah.
To differentiate. But then I also thought about, diversity and body positivity, and I thought, well, what if Miss L was like short and thick, and Tracy loved her, and Tracy's this like goddess, and why shouldn't she love someone that's like short and thick? What is that? So I was like, let's break away from convention here and show that like Ella's sexy as hell and not like the conventional beauty. And growing up, as a child of the 80s and 90s, like anytime someone was, heavy set in a movie or a rom-com especially, they were always the butt of every joke. And I'm like, Ella's sexy as hell. And she probably weighs twice as much as Tracy and is like 2 feet shorter, and that has no bearing on the fact that she's straight fire and sexy as hell, and you'll see some illustrations of that in the spicy zine that'll make your mind turn inside out about how sexy Elle is, yeah, facts, right? And so like it is a fact, we know this, but yet it's so hidden from our zeitgeist because we live in a world where affordable food is not super healthy for you. Your body can't break it down, and yet that's like the antithesis of conventional beauty standards, and it's designed to keep you in this rat race of trying to spend every dime you have on trying to figure out a balance of this like impossible ideal, and it's just ridiculous. It really is. It all comes down to consumerism, and so it was just like, yeah, let's break that trope, let's make it a little different.
I'm sure I wrote her that way.
Oh, I thought in the beginning you just had it as you,
I don't remember.
and then I was like, hey, let's do this, and you were like, oh, cool.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway,
it was a long time ago. But then a lot of the other names are porn names, and they're just really fun. It's like, come on.
yeah.
Like
Dicky Doublefinger is gotta be the best fucking name for any villain ever. Like, can you guys think of a better villain than Dicky
It's so
Doublefinger?
good.
Like, you don't even need to know what Dicky Doublefinger looks like, although I'm gonna show you anyway.
I forget. Oh, his name at birth was Richard Eugene Doppelfinger.
Doppelfinger. Look at this guy. Dicky Doublefinger. Look at this fucking Doublefinger.
His Disney villain song would be great and horrible. It totally would. Oh my god.
You already know what he looks like when you hear his name.
Right? So, the funny thing about Dicky is that I used to write quite frequently about how it seems like people have this idea that like the American porn industry is run by like one dude who has like nefarious goals and is like trying to destroy American morality, and that's totally not true. That's not how it works at all. But I did think it would be really funny if I made that personality into a character, and that is Dicky. That's Dicky Doublefinger. Dicky goddamn Doublefinger.
Dicky goddamn Doublefingers. Fuck.
At your fucking service. He's from New Jersey.
Trying to see if I can find a really good Dicky moment.
He has a whole backstory that we will slowly get lit in on.
Dicky goddamn Doublefingers. And he's got to be played by either Danny DeVito or Tom Cruise. Those are the only two options.
Tom Cruise is about the right age these days.
And Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder was exactly Dicky
Yeah,
Doublefinger.
yeah.
I'm trying to find a really good Dicky moment. Where he's just like being terrorized by Natasha.
I didn't say Northeast Jersey, Adrian. You brought that up.
It sounds like Adrian's got a guilty conscience.
Sounds like it.
Would he be played by Danny DeVito?
Yes, he would.
Literally, as I typed it. Scalaluigi, wah!
I actually reached out to Danny DeVito in the past.
We sent him a sample of Tracy Queen, but I don't know if he ever got it. Because, like, it went to, like, his holding, address or whatever, and someone might have not forwarded it to him. But we'll keep trying.
Does Northeast Jersey boys know about the triple finger?
Kill. You sexy son of a bitch.
How many artists have contributed to this chapter so far?
Oh,
You're more on top of this than me.
So let's see. We have... I'm going to actually show you guys on the Tracy Queen website. Check this out. We have the credits section of the Tracy Queen website. And so you can see all the credits of Tracy Queen, which is a lot of people. And then you can click on Tracy Queen Volume 4, which has Henry Jerome, who was here in chat. I don't know, he might have gone to sleep already. We have me, we have Lynsey G, we have Matta Sorcier, we have Nikki Powers, we have Viet Huynh, we have Yili Fang, and then we're going to have guest artists, including Arcadia Comics, including Shadowcast Studios, and possibly a few others. We might also, if we hit a stretch goal, include Destinations, which has El Nizam and their crew. And then, who else? Did I miss anyone?
I don't think so.
Chris Cavelli also contributed by creating a 3D model of Tracy Queen, so he should actually be in here. Oh yeah, I gotta include him there. But yeah, it's a pretty big cast. So
Wait, scroll down to Viet.
do you guys all
Does
know?
everybody recognize the apron that he's wearing?
I fucking love Viet. Viet is a goddamn hero.
Anime homies, weigh in. I love that so much. Oh, okay. This next question. Yes, house husband. Woo!
Yeah, me and Kel always go on about the house husband thing.
Okay, next question might be the hardest hitting yet. Are you ready? What is Nikola's favorite type of cheese?
Jarlsberg,
Jarlsberg. Yeah, you're probably right.
because it's stinky.
It's stinky.
By
He
the
is
way,
a raccoon after all.
Jarlsberg is made with the same kind of.
No, that's Limburger.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Jarlsberg is also stinky.
But Limburger is made out of the same kind of bacteria that makes your feet smell.
Yep, and so is Munster. They use the
Did
same
you
type
know
of bacteria.
that if your dog's feet smell like Fritos or popcorn, it means that your dog has a chicken allergy?
I didn't.
Whose dog do we know whose feet smell like
I don't
Fritos?
really sniff people's
Someone was saying
dogs' feet.
I remember someone we know is talking about their dog's feet smelling like Fritos and thinking it was cute. And then Speak told me that that's actually indicative of a food allergy.
Madam wants to know what if their head smells like Fritos.
It could also be. Don't kink shame, Jayel, Lynsey. Come here,
here.
Tara. I need to sniff your feet.
Yeah, Nikola probably likes fancy stinky cheeses. He has very fancy taste for a raccoon, but he does still like the trashy smelling stuff.
Yeah, it's trashy and sophisticated.
He's
He's trashy and sophisticated.
That was the right answer. Good job.
He's a trash panda and he's a sophisticated
But
one.
I feel like he also really likes Taco Bell. Like, really like.
No, it would be like Taco Schmel or something.
Schmacko Bell.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Taco Bell because this is the Oneshi verse. So it would be like
Taco Gong.
Taco Bell. Yeah, Taco Gong.
Taco Gong. Alright, next question. What...
Taco Drum.
Ooh, this is one for you, Jayel. What characters have been the most challenging to draw?
Honestly, Tracy. And you'll see it if you look at book 1 and then book 2 and book 3 and book 4. Tracy has had an emergent property till she became who she is now. Now I could draw Tracy in my sleep, honestly, and it'll look like Tracy. But I had so many different influences on what I wanted Tracy to look like. But ultimately, I knew that Tracy had a look, and I was trying to find it. And early on, I kind of waffled a little bit, you know, like going from one look to another, and I think ultimately it was like that block of marble and trying to carve out the person that's trapped inside. It was me trying to find Tracy, and it's so important to me that she looks like a real person, but not a stereotype, and not a cliche, and not someone who is white trying to draw an Asian person. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many times when I see white artists drawing Asian characters and they look like, yep, that's the cliche token Asian character. Tracy is American. She's an American person from Japanese roots, and she doesn't do the, like, you know, trying to play into tropes. And so it was really important for me to create a character that looks like a unique, powerful individual who is believable and isn't just, you know, to be blunt, isn't just yellow facing a strong female lead. You know, that I would feel horrible about if it came across that way for even a moment. For me, trying to make sure that I was making her a unique and believable individual was vital. And that required so much practice and so many studies and so much, you know, drawing different people. And it was really difficult, you know. Difficult because I felt like she's a lead, and therefore it was the most important. And I have seen a lot of comics where that is done badly. You know, I've seen too many comics where it's like, oh yeah, we're progressive. See, we have a strong Asian female lead, and it's like, dude, you literally just stereotyped a trope, you know, and it's like, do better, you know. But for me to have that judgment on someone else, I needed to apply that judgment to myself. So now I'm trying to walk my own walk, you know, and like, you know, walk the talk, and it was difficult. And I think I landed on a place where I feel good about it. And that took a lot of sweat and a lot of work and a lot of second guessing and a lot of criticizing myself and thinking about it and soul searching. It took a lot of humility. A lot of humility. I beat the fuck out of myself to come up with Tracy Queen. I really did. And I hope that shows. You know, I hope people see that and are like, cool. Leave the stereotyping to Dickie Double Fingers. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fuck that guy. Adrian says, sometimes, a lot of times, the character takes on a life of their own and becomes something that even the writer or artist couldn't conceive. We're the creators, but the art simply develops in a way where all we can do is just bear witness. Yes, and I like to respect that, and I hold a reverence for that as emergent properties that I believe are from a power that is greater than all of us. It is inspiration. It's something that is abstract and we can't define it. I wouldn't try to say where that comes from, but it's a part of our zeitgeist and it's a part of our species. And those emergent properties are the things that we could not sit down and calculate. It's why whenever a property is taken over by producers who are in it for the money, it fails. You know, like, an artist knows how to ride the wave and let the wave be the wave and balance upon it. Whereas somebody in an executive position where they're making the decisions because they have the money is going to try to control that wave, and you fucking can't control a wave. You know, you just can't. And I think a big part of it is just being able to surf. Kel goes on to say, I feel that worry about tokenizing God. I used to do gradient overlays, to do atmospheric lighting adjustments, and try to put super sunny summer vibe on one of my Korean characters, and I'm horrified that I actually shared that art for how yellow it made his skin look. You know, all you can do is try to make the character beautiful and try to do research and try to learn and grow and try to be honest about who the character is. And, you know, like, yeah, some people have more or of one or another pigmentation than others, and also being honest about that is important. You know, like, not trying to make someone not look like the ethnicity that they are is just as damaging as stereotyping. You know, like, just being honest about what you see. And learning to see with honesty is the core of art. You know? And in so, we realize that everyone's different. Everyone has a unique glow. Everyone has unique pallor. Everyone has their own unique complexion, you know? And that's wonderful. And trying to be honest about that is wonderful. Madam says, I think my favorite moment is when Tracy is lobbing around that floppy dildo. That look of sheer delight on her face. But socks toys make me happy. Yay! Yeah. You know what? That was probably my favorite scene to draw. When Tracy fights off like 6 henchmen with a fucking dildo. It's like, all right, Lindsay, you got me. I'm drawing the fuck out of this. And I had so much fun. And to be fair, that was years ago. I was nowhere near as good of an artist as I am today, but I still am proud of that scene, and I think a large part of why it was the writing. Totally transformative moment. Yeah, exactly. Shadowin's burger right bath. What does that mean?
Will there be any spin-offs of Tracy? If so, what would they be about?
So there's already been one, Destinations, and that's where Elle is investigating the Dragon Clan and gets kidnapped by the Dragon Clan, and Tracy is like, "You kidnapped my fucking girlfriend? Are you motherfuckers serious right now?" And it was movie night, you know? Like, Tracy's
We're
not about
supposed
to
watch
have
the new, what was it called?
Protectors of the
Protectors of
Universe,
the Universe movie.
starring Nikola's favorite raccoon. And Tracy's like, "You motherfuckers interrupted our movie night? Are you fucking stupid? Are you lost?" You know? So that was a spin-off. And, you know, there will be more. And also, don't forget, Tracy Queen and Pac take place in the same universe. And so there are interwoven threads there. And we already have some plans for the Pac sequel series that have some Tracy Queen characters in it.
Yeah,
And possibly vice versa.
We have a future storyline for Nikola, but we haven't settled on...
Old Man Nikola.
Yeah, Old Man Nikola. But we haven't settled on what exactly that's going to look like, or...
It'll probably mostly take place in Pac.
How would Nikola react to furry porn?
I think he'd be freaked out. He'd be like, "What the fuck is this? I'm just a raccoon. You can't be showing me this."
Yeah, I don't think it would be his thing. I think he would probably get uncomfortable and make wisecracks about it.
He'd be like, "Tracy, can you just go back to gangbangs, please? I don't need this in my life." Shadowwind. Was your burger right bath good?
Did her father really just die in Japan, or did grandfather kill him? Did lie about that. Is he even her real grandfather?
Whoa, who the fuck asked that question?
I don't know. I don't have
Holy
it up by...
shit, that's a deep cut. Whoever asked that is really paying attention.
Her grandfather is her grandfather.
Biologically.
And her father didn't just die. He was a victim of gang violence, and his grandfather does feel, or her grandfather does feel really bad about that.
Probably responsible, right?
Yeah. But yeah, grandfather did not kill
him. That brings me to a question. So, is Tracy's queering magic related to grandfather's, like, shadow magic?
Oh. Good question. Maybe.
Like, they both seem to have this magical property. Like, Tracy glows with rainbows and can make anyone obsessed with her, whereas grandfather is, like, hidden in silhouette and can basically be, like, invisible. And they're very opposite. Like, one is, like, glowing with rainbow, no one cannot notice you, and the other is, like, constant silhouette, no one can see you if you don't want them to. Those are oppositional magics, but they seem directly related, just opposite personality types. So I wonder if that's like hereditary magic.
It might be. Honestly, I've never thought about it that way. Both of the characters are based on real people who are really related.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely a through line there.
Yeah, Tracy has a rainbow magic. We call it her queer magic, and she can use it to, like, make people fawn over her. Like, if she uses her queer magic, people will just be like, Oh my god, I
It's
love
sort
you.
of
I'll
like
do
the Force
anything
in
you
Star
want.
Wars. It's like, oh, don't you wanna? And
Senpai
they're like,
noticed
yes,
me
I do.
versus senpai don't notice me. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I do think that there are people who have real world versions of those magics.
Yeah,
Person I
like,
based Tracy Queen
do
on.
not perceive me versus you
Yeah.
can't not perceive me.
Yeah, the person that I based Tracy Queen on is very much a like when I want to be perceived.
No one can avoid looking at her.
No one.
Yeah. Like, seriously, everyone in the room is staring at her
And
when
is
she wants to be perceived.
obsessed.
And it's very rainbowy.
Yeah.
And
Enamor
then-
glamour.
Yeah, enamor glamour.
Yeah, that's it.
And her actual uncle is shadowy as fuck.
What does your research look like when writing about characters with different lived experiences than your own?
So we do a lot of research on that shit, including hiring consultations from sensitivity experts within those demographics. But, you know, a lot of times we'll ask people that we're friends with, because it turns out we have friends from, like, every demographic, you know? Like...
Yeah, I mean, because the most of the characters in this book, like the big time characters, are actually based on real people who I know. It wasn't so much a process of researching as much as it was a process of, you know, knowing people as people, I guess.
Yeah.
Again, though, it's like so much of the formative work on this was done so long ago that, like, the specifics of what I might have looked into is kind of foggy to me at this point.
Well, even in going about it as the artist, you know, I'll say, like, I still, you know, when I'm reading something that Lynsey wrote years ago, I'll do tons of research on making sure that I know what faux pas to not include unless they're intentional. And, you know, ultimately, like, some people do internalize stereotypes and play into them as a defense mechanism. And that's also something real to be sensitive about and appreciate and allow for, because everyone's valid, you know? But with that said, it's important to know that you're doing it intentionally or not, you know?
Well, I don't know if I would call it a defense mechanism. You know, it is for some people in some situations.
For
but
some
are
people,
who they
like,
are. And, you know, and respecting them for who they are, I think, is the most important.
Yes, exactly. I was talking more specifically about, like, code switching and that kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
As, like, a defense mechanism for, like, not wanting to be in a dangerous situation. Like, I understand that. You know, I can intellectually grasp that. But trying to hold that and be honest about what other people tell me about that, and hold that with reverence delicately, and not make that something to be treaded upon lightly, you know, and to really talk to people. And I reach out to people all the time to be like, hey, I'm writing this scene, it's closer to your lived experience than mine, what do you think? That's incredibly vulnerable and at times embarrassing to do, but I think that reverence dictates that as a necessity to just be able to communicate with people. And if you have people in your life that you can't communicate to with humility,
Well, and I think that
you need to work on that.
in the writing process, most of these characters are based on people I knew in real life, and whether that was in my personal life or my professional life, um, I interviewed probably hundreds of people who work in the adult entertainment industry.
Adrian's got to go, so I want to address this real quick. Adrian says, "Hey y'all, I'm gonna have to go have dinner and watch Andor with the kiddos." And as we said a while ago on the pod, having people in our corner who are willing to go there and have the important conversations is very refreshing and needed. I appreciate you. I appreciate you all and the hard work the Oneshi community does. Adrian, you are such a big fucking part of that, and I can't thank you for the countless hours we've spent talking about, various lived experiences, and you are a guiding light in my life. I love you. Have fun with the kids. Enjoy Andor and enjoy dinner. Adrian gigantically fades into the lurks. All right.
With that sound effect.
Love you, buddy. Yeah, Adrian has been really cool on just being able to go there with me and fill me in on experiences that I haven't had, and really a tremendous boon in our corner for doing these stories justice. And it's really important to not take that lightly and to lean into that as best you can with people who are willing to be a part of the bigger picture with you, because we are. Like, humans are social animals, and anything that we share with each other gets shared with other people, and anything that gets shared with other people becomes part of the zeitgeist. I believe it. We have another good question?
Yes, the next question is, what is the official Oneshi Press tree count since partnering with One Tree Planted?
Holy shit.
So I looked it up, and we are at 1,674 trees planted.
We have planted 1,674 trees.
And
little old Oneshi Press.
We are going to be planting more soon for the backers of the Indie Read More campaign.
How many is that?
It's going to go up. I don't know.
Like 70 something?
Yeah, and then sometimes people buy extra trees. So
cool. And then we're already at 75 more trees for Tracy Queen. We are foresting hardcore. And you know what? Every one of those trees, that's something that's profit from us. But what the fuck profit is there if we're not protecting our planet? If we're not doing our best for the planet. And I don't think people really understand how important trees are for the planet. People know that trees do sequester carbon. People know that trees do produce oxygen that's breathable. But what a lot of people don't realize is inland trees release pinings that go into our aquifer, that go out through our watershed to the coast. And phytoplankton blooms on the coast produce 70% of the air that we breathe. And without trees, they would die, because that's where their food comes from. Inland trees literally feed the phytoplankton that produce our air. And without them, we dead. Like, there ain't no earth without them. Granted, like, long before trees, there were other systems in place that, like, produced, proto-atmospheric conditions that earlier life could sustain on, but they've been around long enough that they've become an integral part of our global ecosystem. And they're vital to our survival for many different reasons. They have the ability to transmute carbon monoxide into carbon dioxide. They sequester carbon dioxide, and they release O2. I mean, They release nutrients that feed literally everything else. The entire oceanic predation cascade is dependent on inland trees at this point. And it's not just trees on the coast. I mean, trees in literally the middle of the continent are putting out nutrients that are feeding the entire oceanic cascade from the coasts out to the deepest trenches. Like, we literally need trees. We will die without them. And right now, our current administration is demolishing protections and opening up logging in areas the size of fucking California. And here we are, barely squeaking by to make a living, and we just planted nearly 2,000 trees. Like, little old poor us are gonna have to undo what the wealthiest people on this planet are doing. And you know what? Fuck it. That's a good a reason to fucking fight as any. We'll do it. And we'll do it with your help. You guys being here right now for this Q&A is helping to bring attention to our cause, and that in and of itself is helping us fight the good fight. And it's the only fight, because we have nothing if we don't have a planet.
Can you all see Fern in the background? I think you can. Like over my shoulder.
Oh, let's see. Where's...
Yeah, he's right there.
You guys see that little blob back there?
Right there.
Little dirndl.
Falling
Burndle
asleep
dirndl.
Sitting up.
And Tree's house, a lot of animals, and help to keep everything cool. Trees actually decrease local temperature by an average of 15 degrees, and the more trees there are, the more global warming decreases. The babies are here for the planet too. The fur babies. Do we have a next question?
Yes, we do. All right, next question. Getting down to the bottom of the list, folks.
Uh-oh.
Um,
These better be good answers.
What are some of your favorite moments that Tracy and Nikola go through on their journey, both to write and to illustrate? Mine is actually in this issue. It's when Nikola asks Tracy if they have the moral
rectitude.
And she goes on a rant. It's hilarious, and I'm so proud of myself for having written it. It's, I think, my favorite page of the entire book.
I think my favorite Nikola moment was in book 3, actually, where Tracy Queen's talking about raising an army from sperm clones, and Nikola's just like, like, he just has this, like, Home Alone moment where he's just, like, in total shock.
So horrified by what she's
like,
saying.
aghast at the concept, you know? And I still think my favorite Tracy Queen moment was where she fights off the Dragon Clan with a dildo.
Yeah.
Like, that was just great.
There's actually a scene, was it in Warrior? That is very similar to a scene that I wrote for Tracy Queen, where there's, in Warrior, she's like a courtesan who is naked and is walked in on, like, after a session, and she takes out all these dudes in, like, slow motion, and she's completely naked. And I was like, I already wrote that! It's in Tracy Queen! But that hasn't happened yet, I don't think, in where we're at in the story, but it's in the script.
Well, Tracy doing it is her own special thing. You know, it's not, again, it's not the plot point. It's the execution. And the executions in Tracy Queen are totally just their own thing.
But for me, the best Nikola and Tracy moment is when they get into the argument about their moral rectitude.
Yeah.
Because I love that Nikola is able to push her and be like, what the f*** are you doing? Like, you're insane. And she's like, how fucking dare you? And then she turns it into this, like pumping him up, like, let's
I'll be right back.
be heroes together kind of speech.
Keep up with chat.
She manages to, like, turn it completely on its head until Nikola's like, yeah! Wait, what were we talking about?
Chat, I'm going to step away for a minute. You can ask Lynsey anything, and she'll have to answer honestly. That's the law.
That's not the law. That's not the law. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm trying to think about other standout moments. Dickie Doublefinger's standout moment is actually, I forget if it's in this issue or issue 3, but it's when he goes on this like long tirade about how the porn industry is supposed to work for him, goddammit, and how basically the porn industry is like pumping cash from the very dregs of humanity in like directly into his bank account, and that's how he operates. And I thought that was brilliantly written. Thanks, Lynsey. Jasenia says, Deontay says, do you have any games on your phone? I do. I have New York Times word puzzles on my phone. The only games app that I pay for is word puzzles from the New York Times, because I'm a nerd. Shadowcat says, Lynsey, why did Natasha go work for Dickie Doublefinger? Tracy was trying to help, but Nat ran off for the baddies. It's a really good question. I don't think it's one that I really have an answer for. Natasha just that's just how she is. I think that she resents Tracy a lot because Tracy was very sort of like paternalistic toward her and was like, I'm going to help you. And Natasha was like, you, like, I don't need your help. Like, I'll do this my own way. And her own way was sort of nefarious and not great. But she wants to do things on her own terms.
Did you answer Jasenia?
Yes.
You told Deontay about all the games on your phone?
My word games?
Your nerd games?
So Natasha is a cat. Yes.
Yeah, I think Natasha is basically someone that was in a really bad place and saw Tracy as somehow able to rise above that and kind of fixated on Tracy as like someone who she perceived as superior to her and wants to destroy that. And I think that all of us have probably experienced that at one point or another growing up, where someone else's insecurity made them perceive you as an enemy, even though you were like, what the fuck? Like, why am I your enemy? I'm just doing my thing and I'm doing it well. Like, you know, we have those people in our lives who just, instead of clapping for you, try to like pull the rug out from under you.
Yeah.
And I think
Natasha was like, oh, what, so you want to be frenemies? And Tracy's like, no,
I just want to be friends. Like, what are you talking about? And, you know, that's a realistic but unfortunate thing that some people just can't process admiration. They see it as a challenge, you know? And we could get into the psychology behind that, but since I'm not a psychologist, I will leave that for you good folks to pontificate upon.
Would it ever be possible for Dickie or Natasha to reform?
I could see Natasha reforming.
Yeah,
I just
Natasha
think
could.
Dickie is a dick.
Dickie, I think actually, like, deep down inside, there's still a little bit of a heart, but he would never be humbled enough to admit that he was wrong. So I don't think he can be.
Because I think he's the kind of person that humbling feels like a loss. And the only way to deal with a loss is with domination. And I feel like once you have made up your mind about that, no external forces can intervene, you know?
Yeah, so Dickie, no. Natasha, maybe. It's possible. She'd have to have like a real change of heart, but I think she's capable of it. Whether she actually would or not.
She's smart enough, but she might outsmart herself and double down.
Is there anything you're really excited about in the future of the story that you can tell us about without giving too many spoilers? Yeah, I'm excited for Tracy to really start her sexual exploration. As of now, she's pushing her limits by having sex with many multiple partners
And
at
different,
once.
different types of men, but they're mostly men still.
Yeah. And she hasn't really gotten into any, kink or anything that she finds truly adventurous yet. And that exploration is going to start soon. So I'm excited for all that. She's going to meet so many cool people. It's going to be great.
I think I'm also really excited for Old Man Nikola in the Pack follow-up sequel. I'm really excited to see that character continue in a very different scenario. Like who he becomes. Who are your favorite characters? God damn it, if Dickie Doublefinger isn't one of my favorite fucking characters. I just love to hate him. He's such a son of a bitch. And there's like the verisimilitude between Dickie Doublefinger and actual bad guys in the world.
Yeah.
Like, there's something so trump card about his personality that is just like, God damn it, I love to hate that guy, but also Howie. Sweet, sweet Howie. And sweet Howie Blob. And sweet Howie Bot. They're just... all the iterations of Howie are so sweet. Poor Howie.
Howie Blob's pretty sweet.
Well, Howie Blob is the least personality that we see from Howie.
He's so cute, though.
Yeah.
My favorite character is Nikola.
Fair.
So I wrote Miss L to be like my self-insert, but Nikola's really my self-insert.
I also feel that way. I kind of feel like Tracy's a little bit me. But Nikola's also a little bit me. Like, I sometimes draw Tracy and I'm like, well, this is how I would do that. And then sometimes I draw Nikola and I'm like, yep, that's how I'd react,
Yeah. Nikola's just... He's so fun to write because he almost always says what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And,
I'm just a raccoon.
Yeah, they are. Is there anything...
Question, what kinks do you have Tracy exploring? Just Senya wants to know. Yeah, Howie is a sweetie. He's just an innocent. In all the iterations of Howie... There's the human Howie, who's a sweetie. There's the Howie Blob, who's a sweetie. There's the Howie Bot, who's a sweetie. Like, they're all just sweeties.
What kinks do you have Tracy exploring? Okay, forget.
So, in the spicy zine, we have Tracy exploring damn near everything from doctor fetish to like pegging to latex to like all different kinds of orientations to gangbangs to what?
In the
yeah, like all kinds of things, and defetishizing things also. Like we have things that might, in some circumstances, be a fetish, and for her it's not, and that is also really powerful. Defetishizing things, like, for example, we have her with a partner who is an amputee, and instead of fetishizing it as crip porn, it's just like a beautiful partner that she's enamored with. And it's very touching and sweet, and there's nothing fetishizing about it. And so her not fetishizing things that in your typical search results might come up as a fetish is just as much of a fetish. Like being like, I'm gonna see this for what it is and not for what the mainstream makes it out to be. That in and of itself is her own kind of unique take on things that are unfortunately not taken uniquely.
In the book, we have her exploring bondage, specifically rope bondage, with a rope bondage expert. I know. Role play. I think she gets into rubber fetish and not latex. I think. Don't remember. Leather, definitely. Leather's in there. Gosh, that's all I can think of right now.
Yeah, Yuki, I can try to explain this safely in a way that it's not a scary thing for her. Sometimes people, when they're in a very vulnerable situation at a doctor, might feel put off by the fear of being turned on, and that can sometimes leave behind a little bit of a splinter of feeling weird about it. And so being able to explore that pretendingly in roleplay can be a turn on. So sometimes people might have like fantasies about what if they were to have romance with their doctor or something like that. And that can be a coping mechanism and a fetish. And so we do have an illustration in our spicy zine that is Tracy pretending to be a doctor with someone who she's actually a lover to. And it's a way of kind of safening or bridging that gap for that person. So we do explore that in a roundabout way. And that's sometimes fetishes are born out of all different kinds of places, but often they're from places that feel like nopes or no-no places and wanting to take that back in a safe and fun way. I know from the ace perspective, that might be a little difficult to understand, but people play with things how they can to try to get over fears and try to embrace things, and people have all different kinds of ways of doing that. Does that help a little bit?
It's also something that, you might not everybody's going to understand everything.
And that's fair. It's fair to not understand.
Fine. And I think that's it. Oh, no, one more question. Can you describe the writing process for the comics and how you decide the story's timeline? So I'm not sure if the timeline is...
Well, it jumps around because it's asynchronous.
Well, I'm not sure if the question is about the timeline of the story itself or the timeline of, like, publishing it. So I guess maybe I can talk about both. But the writing process for the comics, so that would be hard to talk too in depth about because I have most of the writing was finished a long time ago, and I really just sat down and started writing. And the Tracy Queen is the most visceral experience I've ever had of writing, where a character was just telling me what was going to happen next. So it was very much a process of sort of taking dictation, which was awesome. That's the best thing that can happen when you're writing fiction. So yeah, it was kind of written in like a fugue state, but I wrote most of it while I was working a full-time job in a cubicle. So I was like, nobody can see what I'm writing right now. And I don't know, it was the first time that I had ever written a comic script, so there was a lot of learning that went into it as I went, and then as I worked with an artist and then a letterer, I had to learn as I went what worked and what didn't.
Oh yeah, you worked on the majority of the first couple of volumes of Tracy Queen before ever having any experience in comic books,
Yeah.
right? So like my
Yeah.
feedback on like what you needed to edit was like formative.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you can't have that many panels on a page. You can't have too many directions for a character in one panel. It's not animation. Things like that were like formative.
Yeah.
And then
I
you
didn't
went
know
back
what
and edited the whole thing.
Yeah, and the story just as the story developed in my brain, I realized that it needed to be a graphic novel and it couldn't just be prose, and so I wrote it that way, but it was definitely a learning curve. As far as the story's timeline,
Yeah, I feel like until you're trying to draw something or someone's trying to draw it for you, it's really hard to understand what does and doesn't fit in a panel.
yeah.
And that's a good experience to have, which is why I always suggest people that want to write a comic book start off with an 8-pager.
Yeah,
Learn your mistakes on an 8-pager. Don't write a 500-page
Tracy
comic and then try it out. You know, like start off with a 4-pager or an 8-pager.
Yeah.
Do a couple 4-pagers, then do an 8-pager. Then after a couple 8-pagers, do a 24-pager.
The story's timeline was dictated by two things. One being that Tracy needed to raise an entire army of cyborg clones, and we needed enough time for that to realistically happen. And I say realistically in quotes because none of this is realistic at all. But I still did have to build time into the story for that to be able to take place. And the other one being that it was based on the adult entertainment industry and the technology that was being used around the time that I started writing it. I actually wanted it to be a little bit farther back. I wanted it to start more around like 2009. But then as our time frame continued to move forward, I didn't want it to be that much of a throwback, so it now starts in or around 2012.
Well, so we kind of did that like Batman thing where like you might see a rotary phone in the same panel as a jetpack and it doesn't really make sense, but it's not Earth. You know, there's like a anachronistic kind of sense of technologies throughout. And that keeping that consistent actually makes it an easier pill to swallow. You know, like just maintaining anachronistic technologies and storytelling. She's got cyborg clones while she has a CRT computer monitor. You know, it's like, okay, this is an Earth. Whatever. You know, like...
Yeah.
It helps to maintain a sense of timelessness.
Yeah. And originally we were planning on having cameos of a bunch of real world porn stars.
Porn stars that we knew in person and asked their permission. But many of them are retired now and aren't even porn stars anymore. So it's like, well...
Yeah, so there is a bit of a snapshot of the past going on. And like I said, the way that the porn industry works has changed enormously in the past decade. So
technology has changed that.
Yeah, so it's definitely like a look back, but at the same time, it's not sticking too closely to any one given period.
Jasenia says, I used to be a massage therapist, and lordy, the stories I have of folks being weird. Like, there's a time and a place. Right, and so I think exploring that through kink with a willing partner versus trying to explore those fantasies with an actual person who's a captive audience trying to make a living. You know, like, if you have a fantasy about screwing the pizza delivery person, you practice that with a partner who's willing to dress up like a pizza delivery person. You don't do that to an actual pizza delivery person whose livelihood is on the line. You know what I mean? Or like an actual doctor or an actual massage therapist. Like, you can have that thought and then explore it in a safe place with a safe person who's in on it and wants to do that with you. And that's part of the point of that, right? Like, that aspect of kink is you have a fantasy about having a real cookie tree. So you could make a fake cookie tree and put cookies on it and then eat them. And that could be your safe way of fulfilling that fantasy, right? Um, it's okay to have fantasies. It's just not okay to be inappropriate about them.
Mhm.
Especially with captive audiences. When someone's finances or livelihood are on the line, you don't want to press that in a way that isn't okay for that person, unless you're close enough to talk it out and be like, hey, would this be okay? And that person feels safe enough to honestly say yes or no. That's different, you know? But that requires a friendship and a rapport based on trust, which has to be built and established over time. But when you just like go to a bar for the first time and start flirting with the bartender aggressively, that's not okay. Because they literally, their tips are on the line, their job is on the line. They have no choice but to try to be polite. You know, like, that's not okay. And so kink is a way of exploring a lot of those things without actually putting anyone in a bad situation. Yeah, barista horror stories, exactly. Was that all the questions?
Yep, that's it.
Anybody else have any questions? I think this has been a great conversation.
Mhm.
And thank you all so much for contributing. So a barista is someone who sells coffee at a cafe. And barista horror stories are about being a barista and just trying to make and sell coffee while people are being jerks to you sometimes and putting you in an awkward situation that you shouldn't be in because they don't know the difference between flirting with someone they're on a date with and taking advantage of someone who's at work. Because when you're at work, you have to be polite to customers, or you could lose your job. And people taking advantage of that is predatory. Yeah, so the horror story is people taking advantage of the fact that someone's at their job where they have to be polite or they could get in trouble. And being rude to that person in uncomfortable ways, knowing that that person has to be polite back. Or maybe not knowing and not understanding that that person being polite doesn't mean that they want to have a personal relationship. They're being polite because it's their job. So that's kind of a horror story. Not horror as in scary, but horror as in emotionally tumultuous. Sora, I'm glad you think that this has been a great stream. I'm really grateful for you being a part of it. Poor baristas indeed. Poor bartenders, poor waiters, poor anyone that's in the service industry in any way, because it is too common for people to take advantage of that, and in gross ways. So, if anyone is at work, they're a captive audience because they are getting paid to be there, and if they're no longer there, they no longer get paid. With that, please respect them. And respect them as individuals with their own conscious sense of consent, and realize that they have to be nice to you, and therefore don't make fucking assumptions. You know, if you catch them outside of work and they're flirting with you, cool. But if you catch them in work and they're being nice to you, don't fucking make assumptions. Just give them a good tip and fucking move on. It's okay if you didn't understand everything. Yuki, you can always ask me about anything you ever want. You can ask me in DMs, and I will be happy to explain it. Or on my normal streams, if any questions come to mind, you can ask me, and I'll talk about it for hours. It's totally fine. I love talking about that stuff and trying to explain it. It's a big part of what I do is just trying to explain these things. It's just as important as the art that I make. So you can always ask about them. All right, and with that, if no one has any final questions, I think we're gonna wrap this stream up.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired.
Yeah, we came up with some really good topics of
Yeah,
conversation here.
thank you everyone so much for being here, and thank you to the people that submitted questions. It's been really awesome. I love talking about my projects, and sometimes I forget to do it unless I sit down for something like this.
And anyone in the future who watched this to the end, thank you.
Well done. Thank
well
you.
done. Yes, we appreciate the people watching the replay who couldn't be part of this conversation, but hopefully got something out of it. Yeah, we'll talk to you all later. We're not going to do a raid because this is an irregular stream. We're just going to end, and hopefully you all can find someone else to watch Mass Effects. Good night. Thank you so much for hanging out. You're awesome. We love you, and you're just tremendous. You're the
Do you
best.
want to show off the thing that Mass Effects helped us get?
Yes.
I'll be right back.
Okay, real quick, before we end stream, Mass Effect's our amazing production liaison that I don't know how we'll ever be worthy of having. One day we're going to do something tremendous to help Mass Effects out, but Mass Effects has helped us out tremendously. Look at this fucking gorgeous print.
This chunky boy.
This is the Side Quests anthology. It just showed up today. We're going to be sending this out to our contributors and to our Kickstarter backers, and we couldn't be more proud. The colors are just fucking sick.
It's so pretty.
It's so pretty. It is a thick book. Like, if you dropped this and it landed on your foot, you'd be like, fuck, my foot! Ow!
So nice.
It's so good. Yeah. I can't wait. I'm gonna start, I might start tomorrow packaging these up and sending them out. And we'll get them out to people as soon as we can. And this is the Side Quests anthology. We just got it today, and we'll be sending them out as soon as we can. It is very lickable. It's beautiful.
It's so shiny. Yes, we're very, very
The
pleased.
colors are rich. The pages are thick. The book is heavy. It's a chunky boy.
My story. Yes, very, very pleased. Look, there's Quester. Queston.
Let's check out this image that Shadowcast did real quick. Look at that. My kink is madness, Tracy, no! Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Shadowcast. Okay.
I could keep going. There's so much in here.
It's so good.
Look at this one.
It really is great. It really is great. I love Tracy's little claw hands in the picture. Yeah, so Mass Effects has been our, I don't even know, our benefactor in these amazing productions that we've been so lucky to continue creating. And you all, whether you know it or not, have a great debt of thanks to Mass Effects, because we wouldn't be half the Oneshi we are without Mass Effects. Mass Effects is a key player on the team. So please, everybody, thank you to Mass Effects. If I don't see some hype for Mass Effects in chat, I'm going to get very disappointed. Yeah, Mass Effects helped us get Monkey Maids made as well. There we go. There's some hype. There's some hype. Hype for Mass Effects. Mass Effects thing.
I'm glad you're enjoying Monkey Maids. Super fun to write. And FYI, everybody, there is more Tales from Existentia coming. The story I'm working on now is just harder. It's taking a while. I could keep... There's so many comics in this book! One from that one. Dude, this book is lit! Erect. This is the Choose Your Own Adventure comic. Super fun. This comic is deep. Oh, transmigration.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think I've shown a page from it.
this book is just filled
Oh, here.
with beauty and fucking awesome storytelling. All different kinds of storytelling too. That's what I love about the anthologies. It's like you can keep it as like a bathroom reader and just read like a chapter a day and just like, yeah, it's so enriching. And the next anthology, I promise you, each one has gotten better. The next one is gonna be even better. All right, you gotta go eat. We gotta go eat too.
Yeah,
so you're awesome. I love you so much. I love you all. You're all just so wonderful. Thank you all for hanging out with us and being a part of this. We're gonna be sharing the replay out on our Dream Fuel, and anyone in the future watching this, thank you so much for watching to the end. You're all freaking amazing, and I love you all, and I hope you all have a great night. Tomorrow I will be streaming more coloring on Tracy Queen. Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday every week I'll be here. So, peace out, fam. We love you. Thank you so much. I hope you go find some other Twitch streamer to give your love to. We're not going to do a raid tonight. Peace out, fam. You're awesome.